G'day campers, how are you? And welcome back to another Thursday night live around the campfire. This week we're talking about mental health breaks. Let's talk about them. Let's investigate them. In a time where mental health is a highly talked about subject, I think it's time we started looking at things with a completely different approach. So tonight I've got two people whom excitedly have just done a couple of things for themselves that really bring this topic right into a close. So tonight I've got with me, and Bron's first time on Thursday Night Live, and I'm so rapt you're here, so thank you. So I'm going to read your introduction rather than mess it up.
Go for it.
Thank you very much. Bron is a mum of 5 boys, married to Paul, and a breast cancer thriver, living in the mid-north coast of New South Wales, Australia. Bron began her career in nursing in 1989, developed a passion for education and completed a Master of Professional Education and Training in 2017. During these years, Bron has maintained a dual career in marketing, nursing, resulting in a unique combination of education and entrepreneurship. So welcome, Bron.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, look, I'm excited because Angela talks up a fair conversation about you too, and so I'm pretty pumped about that. So Angela, everyone sort of knows Angela, but she's one of the most amazing women I've ever met. She's an emotions practitioner that I adore, and I can't wait to dive into the conversation with her. There's a lot more to Angela, but I'm actually taking the presumption that everyone in the campfire should damn well know her. So,
and if they don't, make sure they go and meet her and find her and have a chat. That is all I do.
Guys. Seriously.
I agree completely. So well, listen, we'll just do a quick hello and see how we are. How are you going, Bron?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Angela, yourself?
I'm brilliant.
Yeah, excellent. And I reckon you both should be, because you've both been off on adventures having a mental health break.
We have.
Or, as I prefer to call it, instead of break, I call it a reset. Because, you don't want to break. You want to reset, right?
Very true.
Too long, a break turns into a breakdown, right? And we want to avoid that one. So
true.
Yeah, well, as soon as we're diving into that, Angela, do you want to share your experience you've just had?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we've got time tonight.
Go.
Yeah. Okay, well, since everybody knows me, so everybody knows that I focus on emotional intelligence and especially on managing emotions and knowing your emotions. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was a very big surprise when I had a descent into total exhaustion, because I thought I'd been managing myself really well during the pandemic. I was really grateful. I mean, I live by myself. I didn't have all the issues people had with families. I wasn't lonely because I really like my own company. I do work that I love. I was just, here in Queensland, the markets never shut down. So I was able to get really good food. I was still able to go for walks. So I was going, I'm rocking this. I'm doing really well. And then I had the news that one of my friends had committed suicide and another one was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I just completely fell apart. And that was on the same day that Queensland announced that we were going back into lockdown. And I had just said, I'm going to fly to Sydney. I'm going to visit my friends. I'm going to do some business. I'm just going to, this was in July. This is all going to, on the way up, we're just going to make this work again. And it didn't. I completely fell apart. And so I sent a message out to everybody and said, I'm going to take 2+ weeks off and reset myself. And then I'm going to be ready. As I said, you have to fill your jug before you can pour. And I thought that was going to be plenty of time because I knew what I was doing, right? I mean, I was the expert. 3 weeks later, I was barely out of bed. I'd spent the first week in bed with a vestibular migraine. And so that was that. So half of my allocated healing time was getting worse. And so I took another 3 weeks after that to get back to where I am now. And it's been a slog in the sense of, my God, I needed to be patient with myself, because there was so much judgment. I shouldn't be in this place. Why am I in this place? I was ashamed of myself, because shouldn't be. I was guilty that it was taking so long. And then I had to come to the place where I realized this was not just a thing. This was something that had been building for a very long time, over a year, and I hadn't noticed. So it was like the compounding effect, something happened and then something happened and then something happened. It felt a little bit, what's that game called? Jenga?
Yeah.
Where you pull out sticks. And I felt that I had pulled out one stick too many and the whole thing just fell apart. And so then what I did for the next 3 weeks, I just took care of myself. First of all, I said, okay, I got to be my best friend. I would never treat my best friend the way I was treating myself. The talk that I was having. And then I just continued doing what I was doing, but I did it with a different attitude. I meditated, I walked in nature, I cooked really good food, really healthy, set myself a really lovely table every time I had a meal, and really, and gave myself permission to not work. Whereas before I had always felt guilty about not doing anything. And this time I deliberately didn't do anything. And that felt pretty damn good.
And that is awesome to hear, because the pressures of life, everybody has them. And looking at you now, glowing, both of you, by the way, it is just awesome to see, because it's, I don't know of a time in my life where we've ever had the circumstances that we have. And I feel like there's been a lot of disengagement in everything, which puts even more pressure on top of things. So I'm so proud of you for putting your hand up and saying, I can't do this at the moment. I don't need to do this at the moment. Because it's one thing that I think we don't do enough of, is actually put our hand up and say, I can't do this right now.
I just didn't feel that. I mean, I wasn't serving anybody. I can't work with people and sit there and go, I just want to go to bed. That's just not on. I mean, it's an ethical issue as well, but I just couldn't. I physically was unable to do anything. I couldn't string two words together. I would sit in front of things and go, I couldn't find the word of what it was. I would literally go from one room to the next and forgotten what I had done, or what I was, what I had gotten out of bed for. And it was just, it was mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion. And it had been building for over a year, because I had been sick last year. I didn't just have the 2 deaths this year. I had 10 deaths last year. And there was and they were not just, this is just a friend of a friend. These were close friends in my parents' generation as well as in my own. So, those were people who were younger than I was. And it was and I was just sitting there going, I'm soldiering on. I can cope with this. I know how to grieve. I can let this go and just move on. Yeah, but it was just that compounding effect. Everything just happened until it just couldn't do it anymore. And I think we are all getting to this place at the moment, because we are all soldiering on. Now the pandemic is creating conditions that we can deal with on a short-term basis. And that's the thing, is we can deal with 1 or 2 challenges quite easily. But we have all of these challenges together. So there's, I don't know if you've heard of there's a scale that was developed, a stress scale that was developed in the 1960s, the Holmes-Rahe stress scale. So it's 43 stress events in life. Yeah. And so when we add those all up, and I looked at that. Hang on, I've got them here. So they add them all up, and they say, if you have over 300 points, your risk of getting sick is very, very high. Yep. And when we add up, so for example, change in living conditions, revision of personal habits, change in recreation, change in social activities, change in sleeping habits, change in number of family get-togethers, changing eating habits. That's not even counting business readjustments or different changing work conditions, or more fights with a partner, or financial stress of any sort. We already have over 200 points. And that means we are at a high risk. Then you add personal stuff on top of that. We're over 300. We're at a very high risk of becoming ill. So nobody starts from zero this year. We're all starting already at almost 200 points on a scale of 600. That's high. And we're just sitting there going, yeah, I can rock this. That's no problem. I can deal. But we're not.
No, I think that's the thing. Like, we're starting to realize just how much we're not okay. Like, this year's been exceptional in the aspect of different changes. Business owners are having to consistently renegotiate their situations. Like, God help you if you own a restaurant in Melbourne.
Oh,
yeah.
Like, how many can we sit in a restaurant now? We've got to measure it up, and then we've got to measure it up and make sure everyone's distant. And, like, it's that additional pressure. It's just, it's a very interesting place. So I'm going to head back to your mental health break, if that's all right, just for a sec, because then I want to dive into Bron's in a fair bit of depth too. 6 weeks when you plan for 2. How did that affect you business-wise?
Well, that was the thing. My business was not really going anywhere anyways. I mean, let me put it this way. People were zoomed out. Nobody wanted to do anything on online. And, everybody is interested in leadership and emotional intelligence, but there's no budget. You don't want to work on yourself when you're in survival mode. So, so that was the thing. I was constantly working and trying to get work done, knowing full well that it was completely useless at that time. And instead of just saying, okay, I'll take that time to take care of myself, I pushed even harder. And I think, a lot of people do that at the moment. We just really want to, and this is one of the things that we do. We want to prove that we have value and that we contribute to things, right? Because we like being useful. And when we're not, it's really, really difficult. And, in that sense, I was very lucky that I'm running my own business. So if I take time out, if I had been employed, I couldn't have said to my boss, oh, you know what? I'm going to take 6 weeks for a health break, mental health break, or health reset. I would have lost my job. But, again, in Australia, we have certain conditions around job. There are other countries where people go on holidays all the time. People in Germany have 6 weeks of paid holidays. I talked to my cousin and she's going on holidays again. And I go, again? You've just come back. She's like, oh, that was 3 months ago. I talked to somebody the other day who said, I'd really like to take some time out, but it's 11 weeks until Christmas and I'll take time out at Christmas. I'm like, that's almost a quarter of a year. Yeah. You're already feeling the stress now. Are you sure you want to hang on there for another 3 months? And she's like, yeah, I think I can do it. See that, and that's the attitude we have. We're just going to soldier on. We're just going to make this happen, and it's not working.
Yeah, I agree completely, and thank you, because it's stopping is the most important thing I think we can do, because then we can recalculate what's going on. Which, if it's all right, I'm going to throw over to Bron.
Yes,
and
please.
Bron, can you please share with us what you've just done?
Right. So, with my business, Bron Watson, Bron & Co., we have a team who are remote, which is handy. And we bought a caravan in May. It's a 15-year goal. I've finally done it. We've bought our van, and of course, it's COVID. Yep. Yay! And early July, our neighbours across the road who are retired said, right, we're doing this amazing trip through South Australia into Northern Territory, coming back through Queensland and coming back. And Paul looked at myself, my husband looked at me, and I looked at him, and he said, what do you think? And I went, bugger it, let's do it. So we rang the school literally on the last day of term 2. So it was beginning of July, and got permission to take our youngest 2 children, who are 14 and 11, out of school, much to their horror, might I add, because they didn't want to, the 14-year-old didn't want to go, right? And we went, right, we're hitting the road for 3 months in our caravan. Dream come true. And we left the weekend that we were going to be going north, because South Australia had closed by then. So we were going to be going through Queensland into Northern Territory. It was the weekend that Sydney took off, and my husband took one of our children down to Sydney to start university again. So, and Northern Territory had said, if you've been to Sydney at all, you're not coming into our state for 14 days. And we went, and so Queensland had opened on the 10th of July. So this was, I think, the 19th of July. We got into Queensland, and then I think 3 days later, Queensland shut.
Yes.
And got into Queensland, thought, right. And all I wanted to do was to get to Carnarvon Gorge. We meandered our way. We used our 14 days and ticked off the bucket list of Carnarvon Gorge and went, right, now what are we going to do? Because we don't know if we're going to get into Northern Territory. It's a long way. It's a long way. So we did go out to Longreach and Winton and Hewenden, all out there. And we've spent 3 months travelling, and I got back just at the very end of September. So I absolutely took a break. Being the fact that I've been through breast cancer, I know what stress can do, and I know that I will never be in a place that I will be at risk for work and family ever again. So it's been 3 years, and that's how you can make decisions. It's like, if you want to make it happen, just make it happen and just find a way. And it's like, okay, if you're an employee, of course it's not going to work that way. I understand that. But what I would say is find a way to feel the freedom of what it's like to be on holiday, but at home. Because that was the biggest lesson. It took me 5 weeks to stop going, oh, where's the work? I've got to work. Because it wasn't a break. Didn't have a reset because we were working. But by the time I got to Charters Towers, I'm going, oh, you silly girl. Here you are. You're living your dream. This is your dream. This is the freedom you've been wanting. So why are you wrapping it up in guilt and fear and worry? And I went, you know what? Enjoy the moment, Bron. Chill the hell out. You've got internet. Do the things you need to do. And so I planned that trip around internet for the next, 8 weeks or so? And I would move knowing that I had work to do on certain days, and that's when we moved. So it was the best thing ever. And that was my lesson, was to embrace that feeling of freedom of being in a van, because the lesson I was saying to you before, Scott, we just don't need all the stuff and the things. We don't need it. And that's the lesson for me was, if you can, you just, even in a van, you don't even need the size van we've got. Like, it's just funny that you've got to experience it, I suppose. But is it a risk? Absolutely. I didn't know how our clients were going to handle it. I mean, I picked up a large project for the council just before I left. I didn't even tell them I was going until I'd gone, and I ran the whole thing from the caravan. Thankfully, it was okay, but see what I mean? It was like, it was knowing that it was either now, or I wouldn't say never, but who knows when, because we don't know I didn't know what the borders were going to do. So in terms of the reset and the freedom that's the lesson, is to find that freedom within wherever you are right now, because you mightn't be able to get into a caravan. So, yeah.
Well, I'm loving hearing the glow in your face and the smile in your eyes, because you've come back completely refreshed, right?
Oh, and 100%.
But you've managed to run a business in a different environment with different opportunities. What did you learn doing that? Because what did you learn while doing that?
What I learned was, note to self, check the internet before you go.
Yep.
Meaning that it's definitely impacted by the time we got to Winton, and it was starting to get dodgy. And I had deliverables for the council, and our clients. It was very, that's the thing. It sounds kind of weird to say, oh, really, Bron, the internet? But it's true, but you can do a lot. So if you know that the internet's not great at Mission Beach, but it's great in Townsville, well, you work it. You enjoy your beachfront at Mission Beach, and you are just enjoying every moment of being literally backed onto a beach, knowing, and that And it was a decision, right? It wasn't just, so basically the holiday did revolve around me and the internet and the business, which next time I will know now to even give more of that delegation before I go, so that I can enjoy not having to think about, okay, so we would literally have a travel day and then be a Bron half a day work day.
Yep.
And then the next day would be, cool, we're going to be golfing with a family day or beach day or let's not do anything day or whatever. So we just slowed it down. We just literally slowed it all down. I mean, we caught up with Angela for a day. Chill the hell out, just caught up with Angela. And so we budgeted more time, Scott. So that's the lesson, was to allow just time to be, I suppose, is the best way to put it.
Well, my experience with you was that when you had the internet sorted, you became much more relaxed, because you would literally go, don't have internet today, be in touch tomorrow, done. And then you would just have time out. There was no, oh my God, I should have internet or anything like that. It was just, no, I don't have internet today, so therefore, no, can't talk to you. Which I thought was wonderful, because we don't need to be available all the time.
Exactly. And I worked... I managed to work it so that I could do the work. As I said, I would have these half days, but I'd sit out, just to clarify though, that I'd be, say, at Rolling Stone, which is north of Townsville, and I'm looking over the ocean, that I'd be sitting outside. I'd work outside. I didn't work in the van. So I'd sit outside looking at whatever I could look at. And that in itself is like, oh my goodness, this is so good. You know, just to be in nature, and absolutely. So we're already planning our next trips, and they're big ones. Like, then, as in, we'd love to get to WA. So we might need 6 months for that, but we've got children, so it's the kids really now that will impact that. However, it doesn't mean that we can't still experience that feeling of simplicity. We put the layers and layers on, as what you were talking about, Angela. It's like we just layer stuff because we think we can and think we do because we have. And that was the thing. We just don't have to do all of that stuff. We really don't.
That for me is where I'm sort of heading with this, because you've both just had a break, and from the sounds of it, you both took 5 weeks before you were starting to unwind from the matrix.
I didn't even realise there was a damn matrix.
But it is, because you're so into so many different.
Does the fish see the water? No.
Sorry.
Very true.
Does the fish see the water? Does it know that it's in water? No.
Oh, no, it doesn't. No, absolutely true. Yeah. So, and that brings about this conversation, because if it's taken 5 weeks for you both to go, how badly do we all actually need a proper mental health break? Because one of the things for me is, these days we're so contactable by so many forms. Facebook, Messenger, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, just so many different social media forms, let alone your phone and messages, email. You're bombarded from all of these different directions consistently. Yeah. I know myself, if you try to get in contact with me, I'm a bit of a shocker, because you can only get me through Facebook, Messenger, or by my phone. If you send me an email, you're a chance. So, but I've done that for me, because I've got things going on, and I'm here to say to other people, don't bother contacting me through the other formats, because it's too much. Yeah. During the year, during the first lockdown in Melbourne, I became extremely supportive of my communities, and I was up till 2-3 a.m. every morning, and I broke.
Wow.
I broke. I had to go chasing rainbows with my son for a week, and even that, I came back from that after 7 or 8 days, and I was still wasn't there, but I just made that decision. I can't do that anymore. And the ability to say, no, I can't do that, but you actually have to get out of the ocean as such with the fish and go and spend some time on land to see what's in the ocean, and it's.
Yep.
So are we talking about mental health breaks enough? Angela?
I don't think so, because that's not acceptable. You can throw a sickie, but everybody will, like if you admit that you're feeling emotionally fragile, people will still look at you like, really? Because we just have this, I mean, again, this whole stay calm, have a cup of tea, like we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable anymore, because being vulnerable means that, and that's the definition of vulnerable. It means where we can be attacked. And I think especially men have a real fear of showing vulnerability. And again, there's this whole sense of we should be on top of everything at any given time. And I'll be honest, social media is not helping. Like there are all these people, these influencers. I mean, I've just actually written an account of everything. Took me 2 weeks to write it, but I've just written it. And I've say in there, how many influencers or people on social media do you know who get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, meditate, do yoga, then have a healthy, nutritious breakfast, then put in a 14-hour day, and then they spend quality time with family and friends. These are not people who have any frailties or any, down days. And if they do, it doesn't come across as very authentic. It comes more across as, oh, I'm here to engage you, to create more empathy and get more likes. It's more about attention than anything else. And there are so many people out there who I've talked to people who said, well, but there's so many people out there who are really rocking it, and I'm just not, and I'm starting to feel like I'm a loser. So they wouldn't admit that they've had a day where they feel low, and we are not human doings. We are human beings. And I think we're forgetting that.
Yeah, I'm going to enter that in a sec. I'm just going to, actually, no, I'll go into it now. It's, at the moment, I'm working with the Victorian Brotherhood, opening up conversations for men, and we're learning how to communicate between us. And it's probably the most beautiful thing I've ever done, bar none. And it's absolutely stunning what's going on inside these meetings, and I'm just so grateful. And I think one of the things for me that I feel is a big opportunity in society at the moment is the fact that men have been asked to be more emotional. We've never, ever had the skills, never been taught how to do it. I'm going to give a big thumbs up to men. We're trying. Like I have 25 guys in a Zoom meeting sitting there listening to each other, being completely and open and vulnerable from their hearts. And I'm just so proud of these men, like I truly am, because they're stepping up into a realm that they do not know, and that's the most important thing for me, is for people to just try things and try and do new things. But I think where this all goes, and what I'm listening to, is all this pressure from everywhere, and especially media and opportunities in there, that everything's got to be perfect. You've got to have perfect this, perfect that, perfect this. I've never met anything perfect. More importantly, I wouldn't want to meet anything perfect.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
It's the little chinks in the armor that make you beautifully you.
Yeah.
And just to go off topic a little bit, but to come back, one of the things for me that I didn't appreciate enough, that I adore now, is my wife, a C-section scar. It's just, I sat there one day and I just looked at it and I'm just like, how beautiful is it what she's done to her body and love for our family. It's just pure love. But I had to slow down and stop and realize that. And it's only because I'm in circles like the Campfire Project am I starting to think like that. So, it's a whole new thing we're learning. And I think mental health breaks now are becoming so damn important.
Yep.
It's too much for everyone to take on. And the gurus of today, being perfect, doing this, doing that, doing this, it's not sustainable. Clearly, in our society. So, yeah. So sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent then, but I'm just so proud of the men at trying this, because it's.
Well, see, what I'm hearing and what I love is that they are listening to each other. Yeah, because we are so good, and I think this is one of the reasons why we don't talk about mental health and why we need a reset, is because as soon as we tell somebody that we're feeling fragile, people can start coming up with all sorts of suggestions on how to fix it. Or
Yes,
how
yes.
to move on, because a lot of people feel really uncomfortable when we start talking about it. And there's nothing better than saying to somebody, oh, it's really not that bad. And people do all sorts of things in order to get out of that, that discomfort of actually saying to somebody, I hear you. And it triggers my own fragility and my own vulnerability. Instead, they go, oh, it's not that bad. Come on, mate, let's go and have a beer. Or let's go shopping. Or, it's really not that bad. There are people out there who have it much harder than you do. I mean, that was the one I had on myself all the time. Right?
Yeah.
And so we don't allow ourselves to feel that because we shouldn't feel it. Instead of going, you know what? It sucks right now. And when somebody listens to us, it means everything. And that's one of the things that I've had during my time. There was not, and I'm getting really emotional. There was not a single person in my circle who said to me, come on, you can do this. They all said, you need time out. You have been giving a lot. You need time out. And I am so grateful that I've had these people, because when I wasn't giving myself permission, when I was struggling with it, they did. And it didn't come from a place of, oh, darling, you can't cope, and oh, you're so weak, and yeah, we hear you. Yeah, you really should take time out. It was no, this is important. Please do this. And you're doing it for everybody. You're doing the world a favor by doing this.
Yeah.
And and that was the biggest lesson. That I'm surrounded by people who accept me for who I am. And I think the world is a much better place when we stop putting expectations on other people just because we're uncomfortable with our imperfection.
Yeah. It's acknowledgement. Like, I feel it's acknowledgement. Like, you acknowledge that you were feeling the way you're feeling, and you know the decision and what's right for you. It's like when with the diagnosis of breast cancer, the amount of people who would try to fix me or say, oh, my Aunt Mary had it and she's fine. And I'd be going, I couldn't give a crap about your Aunt Mary. I care about me. And that was the lesson. It's like, you know what, it's when you've had, to me, I'm grateful for that lesson, because I'm better for it, which means I'm better for me. I know no longer being, remembering being a nurse in my previous life, Mrs. Fix It, we fix things.
Yep.
And so now I don't try to fix anything. And if I do, I apologize, because I'm not wanting to fix anything. It's literally, I think, guys, it's that acknowledgement, because that acknowledgement means, you know what, you matter.
Yeah.
Agree completely. And it's just, I think there's no greater gift in life than to be heard. And I sat down today just trying to work through a few things, and I actually rewatched the interview I did with Oscar on the Campfire Project.
Oh, yes.
And I'm so glad I did. I took time out because there's a lot going on at the moment. We're doing a lot of work. Like, I'm heavily involved in Victorian Brotherhood, and, just in these Zoom meetings, and we plan for 2 hours, they go for 4 to 5, just because there's so much depth and beauty in them, they're brilliant. So I adore it. But I'm sitting there and I'm watching Oscar and listening to the words he's saying, and I don't do that often. I think I've listened to him a lot, but to actually sit back and reflect and take that in, like, it's such a small window of opportunity that I get to be a role model and influence him. Like, he's 10 next year, and one of the things for me is I made a pretty deep decision that when COVID hit, okay, what's our decision with work? Marcella has to keep working, so I'm actually going to stop, because someone's got to be there to look after Oscar. He's underage, he can't stay at home with his own, can't do his bits and pieces. And I'm so grateful I did. Yes, it's put financial pressure on us. Yes, it's made other things that are a bit more difficult. But I can never get that time back again.
No. Absolutely.
And his mental health is so much more important than that. So, and it's like I tried to work nights, admittedly, in the first COVID section because I just, I have to do something. I've got to do something for everyone. I've got to. What can I do? It's not to be a knight in shining armor. It's just what I do. I just, like I can be there. I can help. I know I can help. I can do this. I'm destroyed myself. Yeah. Second night, I'm happy to do things now, but I'm not. There's 11 o'clock cap, and I'm convinced now, and I don't know best words to say. I'm convinced now that men, in particular, when our kids are between the ages of 5 and 10, we should be working part-time to spend time with our kids, because the benefit for myself has been through the roof, and it's so much so that, like this gorgeous relationship that I've got, men are becoming emotional. We're learning to be vulnerable. We're learning to care more. We're learning to love more. We're learning to love ourselves, but it takes time, it takes effort, and takes failures, and, but letting it back into the mental health breaks, that's a huge part of my mental health. I'm hearing stories about kids going back to school where they're really struggling, like big time. I protected the mental health of my son. Made sure of that, and I hope that we live in a world in the future that embraces more of this. So how do we do that? How do we embrace more of these mental health opportunities? Bron, you've just stepped down, and you've gone away. What are you going to do differently now that you've come back from your break?
I made the decision when we were away that I said, I get Zoom fatigue, and Andrew and I have talked about Zoom fatigue, and I get it really quickly. I admire you guys who can hang out and keep it going. I'm good while I'm there, but then I crumble. So I made the decision that I would not be having that many Zoom meetings. And obviously in some of the things that I do with eWomen and things like that, I'm connected to the US a lot. So it's like, well, cool. How's that going to fit in with me and how I want to live? So rather than going, oh, what have I got to do? It's like, cool, how am I going to live? And, as I said, I came back running because of certain events, but I feel fantastic because I know that this running stage is very short-lived because I've already made the decision on how I'm going to live, how I want to work, how I want to be with my kids. And, if there's one thing I do know, having children from the ages, like Ollie's 11 and my eldest is 22, is it's not long, and they're gone. They're not living under your roof anymore. And here I am in my son's room, and he's at university. He's not here, and it's like, so I really truly believe people, if we can for ourselves, is just to slow the hell down to make enough time to reflect on what truly is going to be, call it what you will, work-life balance, blah, blah, blah. I don't care what you call it, but how you want to be today. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Like I've been on the go since 7:30 this morning, and I feel fantastic because I'd already set the intention to know that I knew that this week was going to be a big week. Knowing that next week I will not be doing that again. And Angela, you've taught me so much in that space with the fatigue side of it. And I will never sacrifice myself for my business or my clients or anything like that again, because I know firsthand the depth of what that can do. And we don't, as you're saying before, we could be at nearly 200 and we're not feeling the stress, but we know that at a cellular level, it's feeling it.
Oh, yeah.
I know that my stress levels will be a lot higher now than what they were on the 29th of September. But it's like, cool. As you got that to answer your question in a very convoluted way, was I'm doing what I've chosen to do what I need to do so that I'm not going to be doing that. I'll never be like that again.
And the conviction you're saying that with is amazing because you've had to experience it to actually understand that. You know, and
Look,
that's,
I would, I don't wish a life-threatening illness on anybody.
Yeah.
You know, the treatment, mastectomy, the whole, like when you're talking about the scars. I got a huge scar, but that scar is like, Bron, you got a chance now. You got a chance. Don't blow it.
Yeah.
Go and live. And that's the thing, which is, people might say, well, I don't have a business or whatever. Like, it's not about that. It's about no matter what your circumstance are, circumstance does not control how you feel.
It's funny because in the workplace at the minute, and just talking about whether or not you're employed or not, I truly believe now bosses are starting to realize that people are so disengaged that it's actually to their benefit to say to someone, you know what, take 6 weeks off. Come and enjoy it. Come back. And I mean, I haven't got any studies on it, but I'd love to see at what point you do actually relax. Like, how many times do you go away for 2 weeks? You get 10 days. And 10, 12 days in, and you just
12 days, yeah.
And you still haven't relaxed. I've got to get back to work.
Yeah.
The last 2 days.
Sorry.
Sorry, no.
I just got excited.
No, bring it on. I love excitement. So
I was going to say, and how many people do you know who take 2 weeks off, and during that time they renovate the house, they revamp and they come back and they say, I've had a holiday, and I'm going, that's not a holiday. Yeah. That's a renovation. That's another job. You're not resetting yourself.
I was going to say, I was shocked at it took 5 weeks for me to realize. I was shocked, guys. I was not expecting that because I was living the dream.
What is the dream?
Well, that's the thing, right? It was freedom for me. I just always dreamt about having a road trip in a van with my husband and how it would feel free.
It took 5 weeks for you to even feel that.
It took 5 weeks.
So how
what
much
a lesson, though.
But how much freedom are we actually living when you look at it like that?
Yes.
Because it's something for me that, I'm working through a few things at the minute. I've come from a steel fixing background where I used to, like, the swimming pool industry as a whole is a horrible place to be. But you know what? The building industry is a horrible place to be lead up to Christmas because you have so many variables when you're building that are just, you don't see coming, and you can't. You get weather, you get all sorts of bits and pieces, and they put delays, but you want to make people happy. And it just, the frustration it puts onto trades, and then the builder's behind, the builder puts that negative energy onto the trades then go, and it's just a vicious circle of negative energy. Guys are working 12, 14 hours on site, on tools physically, going home, not spending time with their families and kids, and they're pissed off. So they carry this negative energy. The wife hates them. They're just this consistent battle of what, but then it goes back to the workplace because they're pissed off at home. They get back to work and they're pissed off, and someone triggers it, and then they unload on somebody else, and they unload on somebody else. I did a presentation, and it was actually to a builders group a week and a half ago, the importance of important. And I don't think we spend enough time on working out what's important and actually saying no to what is important. Every situation you have, every situation has consequences, both negative and positive.
Yeah. And we don't realize how much of, as you said, how much of that energy we take with us. Yeah. And in science, they call it emotional contagion, because emotions are really as contagious as viruses. I call it fogging. It's like we spread fog. And when we can spread sunshine, which was really lovely. I'm sorry, that's as a little sidebar for me. I went to a Zoom session with one of the gurus of emotional intelligence, Boyatsis, and he was saying, they said, so how do you know, let's say somebody waved a magic wand And, and all the problems that we have now have been resolved. And how would you know the next morning that all these things have changed? And he said, people would feel like sunshine. And I went like, yes, because that's what I say. Sunshine people, be a sunshine person. That doesn't mean you have to walk around and radiate sunshine from a place of, I'm fine, everything's good, everything's wonderful. It just means you're authentic and you don't buy into the drama. You listen to people, there are all these things that we can do. And I think we've got the tools to be able to do it, but we're in the sprint for, as you said, 12, 14-hour day works and getting it all done by Christmas, we fall in a heap and we forget about it. Yeah. And I think in Australia, we're particularly at risk because in Europe, they've got a summer holiday in June, July, August. Everybody goes away. And then they have Christmas and they have another break, right? We just go, like this woman I talked to, oh, Christmas is coming, I'm going to hold on. We work through winter, and then in summer, we all collapse. Mm-hmm. Christmas, I don't know. Christmas is one of the biggest stressors for a lot of people. Because it's not a time of relaxation. It's a time of disappointed expectation. Didn't get my swimming pool in time, right? Yeah, kids don't like their gifts, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I worked up sometimes Christmas Eve till 3 a.m. Then I'd go and do Christmas, just getting pools ready for people, just because make sure they had their Christmas, and yet I destroyed my own. And like I'll never forget the Christmas I spent at my mum's, where I slept for 6 hours. That's Oscar's time, and I gave that up for other families. And that's
the point, Scott.
That's the point.
That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. But exactly, and that's half the reason why I do everything I do now. It's not. I can negotiate. Oscar's only requirement. His only requirement is to learn. Everything else is negotiable, right? I'm steadfast in that, and it's actually been something for me, because what can I learn about this? Because I can negotiate everything else. What can I learn? What can I do? And I think one of the most beautiful things, there's a couple of conversations coming up. There's one I'm going to have on death. There's one, and next week we're talking about emotions. And I think those two things alone need to be spoken about in a big way so that we can create mental health breaks.
Yeah.
Because it's so important. We need to go and actually work out what is important in our lives. What is it that we want? And if you want to find out what people, regret in life, spend time with the dying.
Exactly.
And learn real quick that it is. Everyone says it's not financial. Everybody says it. Like, I'm listening. I'm listening to that.
It's not things. It's not things, it's people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the blessing that Angela and I've had, is that we've both, in completely different circumstances, have had exactly the same lesson, which was, how do you really want me? How are we going to play this game here? This game of life? How are we going to turn up? How do we want to be? And
How much time do you spend on that? How much time do you spend on what do I really want?
I spend a lot of time on that now. Because I don't know how long I've got. Angela?
Yeah. See, I've always taken time out, because my business means in November, December, January, there's really not much. And so I've always consciously taken that time off and recharged. But I haven't done that for the last year and a half, basically. And I've had a normal life, of constantly working. So I know that I didn't serve myself, but it was just, it's so easy to forget. And as Bron was saying, we just need to be, we need to be really conscious, constantly reminding ourselves what's important, because it's so easy to get sucked into the matrix.
Yeah.
So easy. Because there are all these messages around us that tell us that that's normal, and it isn't.
No.
I still grew up at a time when, and still, like in Germany, supermarkets are closed on Sundays. They close on a Saturday afternoon and then they're closed for the rest of the weekend. Nobody starves. Here in Australia, they close the supermarket for one day and it looks like people are, I look at the shopping trolleys and it looks like they're preparing for the apocalypse. So there's this whole everything now and immediate and just keep going. We don't recharge when we've had a day off and done the laundry and driven the kids to sports,
Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah, 100%.
People tell themselves that that's the case.
But he's like looking at our society in such a fast pace and how rapid it is. We're not built for that.
No.
We're not built to be go. Like Ben Harvey talks about the reptilian brain and fight and flight and explains it a lot better than I ever will. But basically, we're in constant fight and flight mode these days. So adrenal glands are going nuts, and we just it's too much. It's too much. Yeah, but even local sport, right? So but even local sport, right? Just say you play footy. Young guy playing footy these days. When I was growing up, you go and train on Tuesday and Thursday, have a few beers after training, and turn up on Saturday and have a game. These days, you got to be fully fit, ultra committed. Training starts in January and goes right. So some guys even start before, go into December, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. And then if they're playing on a Saturday, they've got recovery on a Sunday. What kind of life are these kids allowed to live? They just live in that football. I mean, it's great if you enjoy it and it's good for it, but where's the social skills? Where's the, you got to keep a full-time job. You got to, you got all these bits and pieces going on, and it's just, what is it you want? And I think that's something as a society we need to really sit down and have a look at.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
But are we brave enough to do that? Are we brave enough to sit down and go, you know what? This ain't working. And right now with COVID, and this is just my personal opinion, so you can complain as much as you like about hearing this. We're protecting our economy.
Yeah.
What economy? We're in debt everywhere. Why are we protecting it? What are we protecting? I'm sorry, I talk about Oscar a lot, but he just blows me away. He goes, Dad, what's the point of money? He goes, interesting. He goes, because can't we just help each other out? Like in our street, we have been helping each other out through COVID, honey, veggies, bits and pieces. And he's going, what's the point of money? I said, well, actually, it's there for a fair trade so we can trade, because I couldn't afford a car. But, if I was just doing something for somebody, he goes, Dad, that doesn't sound very fair. This is coming from a 9-year-old kid. What are we protecting? And why? Are we gonna be able to evolve enough to have conversations where we can openly say to our bosses, hey guys, I'm not okay. I actually need some time off. Our bosses are feeling the same. They're knackered. So why don't we support each other and really open up the honest conversations about this? So I'm off on a tangent. No. But it's
it's possible. It's possible. There are pockets in the world where it's possible. There was a guy who wrote a book, Ricardo Semler, who's Brazilian, and he inherited a company from his father, and he started it in the sense of everybody does what they want to do. You can go on sabbatical. You can take time off. You can go traveling for a year. You can do whatever you want as long as you have agreements in place. They had hammock gardens for people. The people who were working on conveyor belts were organizing their own shifts. It wasn't, the boss would say, this is when you work. They organized it themselves. When they had interviews to get new people on board, they would have the whole team interview the person. So this was done 20 years ago. And he would say, people would either last with us forever or they would leave within 6 months, because some people just couldn't deal with the lack of structure. He had hot desks and mobile offices 15 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
Because he said traffic is insane. I don't want people to travel that much. So let's just create some offices and you can just rock up there when you want. So we're talking about co-working spaces when that didn't exist yet. So and he developed this company out of sight. You know, he developed a very small company, became a fairly big one. I mean, not billions of dollars, but he provided work and satisfaction for people and fulfillment in a way that people would loved working for him. And I think, you know, that's great.
But that is great. That is great. And that's what we've got to start looking at, because like even talking now, and I'll get to this in a sec, but I shall jump on it now. For me, autopilot functioning based on junk values equals exhaustion and poor mental health. I found the autopilot habits is easier until you're no longer coping. Changing your behavior to better align with what actually serves your needs is much harder and takes self-awareness and consistency.
Yeah.
I completely agree that it does, but the benefits for you, your family, and everybody else around you is so significant that it's worth that time and effort to put into it.
Yeah.
You know?
And again, I mean, I have clients who sit and, you know, I have sessions with, and they sit in front of me and they're absolutely exhausted. And they say, I haven't spent time with my kids. I don't know. And I said, so you have a 5-bedroom house. Yes. You have 2 cars. Yes. You go on holidays twice a year. The family has a holiday. You sit by the pool and work. You don't get to see your kids because, and this is men and women, because you're just in the office all the time. Your partner drives them to school, to birthday parties, to sports events. You catch up maybe on the sideline by occasionally going, yay, wonderful, and then rush back to doing work. I said, so is it worth it? Do you really need the 5-bedroom house? Do you need the kids in private school?
Yeah.
Do you need to go on holidays for 2 years? And they go, yeah, but I can't stop. I've got a big mortgage and I've got all of these payments and I've got this. And I go, yeah, and it's just money. And I'm sure if your kids had the choice between a 3-bedroom house with a much lower mortgage, because it means you don't have to work that hard anymore, and time that you could spend with them, they would probably very much like to forego the extra room. Oh, no, I probably couldn't do that. Yeah, you 100%. Can.
Yeah.
Or a 22-foot caravan.
Yeah.
Why not?
I'm not joking.
I lived on the suitcase for 4 years.
I'm dead serious.
Totally.
I would, and I just make sure my wife's not listening. I would happily sell our house, get a Winnebago, and disappear.
Do you know how many people I met who literally had sold their houses and got the clapped out Viscount 20-year-old? Like, honest to God, they've got it's just gold. And I just go, you know what? We've been out we've been traveling about 4 years now. And I'm going, oh, right. And all I could think of, nursing head goes on, yeah, but what if you get sick? It's like, well, what if you don't get sick?
Well,
what if you don't get sick? What if you enjoy those 4 years and they're the best 4 years of your life?
Exactly.
And then you just like skid out of here if you have to. It's like, well, fair enough. I go, wow, courage, awareness. We can all do it.
Yeah.
100%.
Don't need stuff, let me tell you.
No.
Well, I'm going to give Bunnings a fair plug right now, because they have the grey nomad policy, where if you can travel around Australia and transfer your work to any other Bunnings with 2 weeks' notice.
Can they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And how phenomenal is that? You chase the dreams, change everything else. Like, it's just, I really appreciate that, because I think that's something that changing your environment, that's enough of a mental health break too at times. Like just changing your environment, not being in the office, doing bits and pieces, taking home less. So look, we've been going for an hour, believe it or not.
Have we? I've got my glasses on, can't see a thing.
Nah, well, I'm good looking. I'm sorry. Oh,
I met this couple. They had 2 little girls, and they'd been on the road for 3 years, and he was a tiler, and they just put their house up for rent. Again, bought the clapped out or whatever, and they travelled Australia for 3 years, and they were settling in Ellie Beach because they could. They were still living in their van. And the kids
Well,
have finally started school.
if
Free.
COVID hadn't come around, I would have been in Europe for 6 months, traveling
Yeah.
around there.
That's right. I remember.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
and that's like, and you're a traveler, Angela. That's your thing. That's your
Yeah, she is.
yeah, and yeah. Like that's going to lead into another subject, and I'm just going to be conscious of time. So,
Yeah.
can we say? I'm pretty sure we all agree that mental health breaks are just so important.
Yeah.
It's essential. It's not a reward. It's not a gift. It's none of those. It is an absolutely essential part of life.
And I want to be really clear that does not mean you spend the day in front of the computer gaming and getting your adrenaline spiking. We're talking about doing something that actually creates, some relaxation, some serotonin, some stuff what we need to get bored again. Like deliberately bored, so we can sit there and go, yes, I look forward to work, but not from a place of, oh my God, I can't let go of work, but I'm recharged enough to be able to go back. But if we're doing this whole do, have to, must, or to, should work, and even when I'm not working, I have to be productive, it's not going to work.
I agree completely, and I just hope that we are brave enough to accept the challenge to take this on. I hope we are brave enough to understand that our needs and wants are two completely separate things, and that we can take this challenge on with just because I look around at these amazingly beautiful people consistently, and I constantly say I've never met anybody that hasn't added value to my life. I adore people, but I'm worried about people. I'm worried because we are important and we need to look after each other.
Yeah.
And something will give, right? It gives. Some part of your body will give in some capacity. And we don't want that to happen. And if that's one thing we can have people listening is don't get to that point. We don't want to get to the crisis. We want to get to the choice part of it.
Yes. So on that, I'm going to ask. Yeah. Look, but even this conversation's a new conversation. Do you know what I mean? Like we're growing through all of this, and I think that's the best part of it. So, but I want to thank you both so much for coming on tonight and just starting the conversation, because that's what I'm trying to do. And every Thursday night, I'm trying to start a conversation, but I don't want it left here. I want people to pick it up and say, okay, that's a challenge. Let's see what we can do with that. Hit us up with some questions. Hit us up. I don't care what we talk about. I'll talk about anything, because that's the only way in which we grow,
Correct.
So, on that,
and if we all put our heads together, we can come up with the most amazing ideas that in hindsight we look at and go, wow, why didn't we think about that one before?
Exactly.
I'm just going to say, I'm writing my very first little tiny article. I'm trying to write one, and it's the headlines. What do we want? What do we want? Let's find out. So on that, I'm going to ask you, we've gone over time a bit, but hey, that's life. I'm going to ask you both for one bit of advice on mental health breaks, because you've both just had one, and you both would have given yourself reasons not to take them. Can you share with me quickly what those reasons were and why they're null and void now? Start with you, Angela. I'll put you under pressure. Sorry.
Okay, so what were my reasons to not take it? Oh, I need to work. I need to be available for people, even if I'm not capable, which makes no sense whatsoever. I also had there was a pride in there, like a false pride is in I should know better. I am the emotional intelligence expert, so this is not going to happen to me. I've got this under control. So this is probably just all in my head. Not really. and it was the realization that that none of that was real. It was just crazy talk. None of that mattered in the end. Yeah. So if there's one thing I can say, what I got out of that is I can get myself into this state of I love my work, and I can get really, I can sit and just write and talk to people and do all of that. I can feel it in my body now. And when I feel that sense of pushing, I take a break. I go outside into the garden. I blow some bubbles on the deck. I go for a little walk. I play with the dog next door, even if it's just for 10 minutes. And then I come back and sit back down again. Because it's that state of, I've got it. That's, I can feel it now. I can recognize it like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a bit longer than you wanted.
No, it's perfect. That doesn't, it's just, it's important that we discuss that. Because the mind chatter, you're learning otherwise. So thank you. Bron.
Okay, so thoughts would have been, you can't take your kids out of school. What if they miss out on learning? You can't travel in COVID. How irresponsible of you. Your clients need you, Bron. You're going to need to be there at your studio. They need you. You can't afford that, Bron. You don't deserve that, Bron. How could you possibly take 3 months out, Bron? You don't have 3 months to put on yourself. All a load of shit.
Your kids had the best time ever. And the stuff they learned. Oh my God.
We didn't, just to let everybody know, we didn't homeschool. That's for people that I didn't homeschool. We researched stuff as we went, and the life experiences that they experienced as we went were phenomenal. Dinosaurs, volcanoes. We walked around the top of a volcano. We went through lava tubes. We stood next to a 5 meter long fossil of a dinosaur neck. Literally still got the dirt on it. It just thinks that you can't teach that. So all of the things that I thought that, I thought, I can't leave the dogs. Oh my God. Of course they're fine. We've got a 20-year-old son who can look after your dog, Bron. So it's like, I honestly, Scott, there was a whole ream of reasons why. And I think that's why I was so stressed for 5 weeks, because maybe I thought that I didn't deserve to have time out. And how could I possibly still do all of those things when in actual fact it all flourished? Business flourished, everything flourished. Because I just let go, I suppose. And it's like going, you know what, Bron, it's going to be fine.
Yeah. You know what I found so interesting? As soon as I was ready, my clients came back.
Did it flourish because you're now flourishing, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I think so.
Maybe.
I definitely.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing time, right?
Yeah. But it's just that, and I love hearing that, because education comes in so many different ways, right? And one of the things for me, Jim Quick talks about it, how, action and emotion creates a memory. Those actions are doing outside the box, and, the emotion and excitement, and it's just, they create the memories, which the stronger the memories, the more we learn. So experiencing those things for kids is just phenomenal. So I'm actually going to ask Marcella to watch this and say, hey, listen to this, we're selling.
Yeah, learning how to fly a drone from the top of, mountain such and such, or from Cape Tribulation. Knowing, note to self, put the drone on something that doesn't scatter sand all over your mother first.
Oh, look, that's a science experiment, though. That's
it was a science, and it was really, truly science experiment. Seeing the outback where there was zero grass on the ground, it was a caravan, there was our vehicle, a road and dirt, and we were literally in someone's driveway. I said, boys, this is someone's driveway to their house. And they're going, what? I said, this is a station's driveway.
Yeah.
Look at this is what they do out here. You want a job out here, guys? And so we spoke about what that might mean for the kids who grow up out there. Because their kids, that's how we taught them.
Well, there's another campfire panel discussion for you.
Sorry. Anyway, sorry.
No, but we've got so many of this. But this is perspectives is everything, right? So because once you understand how other people live, it actually improves your way of living. It improves the quality of your life because you know somebody else.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm gonna pull the pin.
Yep.
But I just, like mental health breaks, we need them.
It's a must.
Yeah.
It's a must now.
Resets.
It's no longer a discussion of whether or not we should. They're a must. So let's make them happen. Let's support one another to have these. So, on that campus, sorry.
Before you get sick, before it becomes a problem. So it's like you have it before it's a problem.
Absolutely. So, but on that note, I just want to say, Bron, Angela, and Bron, thank you for coming on First Thursday Night Live. I'm looking forward to
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. I really do.
I love having you. It's awesome. I'm looking forward to you coming on a little bit more often.
Sure.
I'll drag you in. So tomorrow night I'm gonna put up some conversations I'm gonna have. If anybody would like to join me on any of those conversations, please put your hand up. The next few weeks we're talking about emotions next week. That one's already full. And the week after that, we're doing men's groups and a few bits and pieces. So just have a look at it. Just check out which ones you want to join in, because everybody's got information that we all need to hear. And, I just adore that about the Campfire, because we all share. And, that knowledge needs to be passed. But anyway, I'll start dribbling if I don't get off. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bron. Thanks, Angela.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Bron.
You're welcome. Thank you, campers. Take care. There'll be some comments in the thing. We'll check them out later. Sorry I didn't get everybody up. But, I'll speak to you all soon. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care. All right. Ciao.